Ooh, god damn. It's late and I'm tired, so I'm gonna try to make this one quick. What am I talking about tonight? Oh, fuck me. Oh, shit. I'm talking about a movie I actually watched just this afternoon, or this evening, technically. Um, the new Steven Soderbergh movie on HBO Max, No Sudden Move. I believe it was released on Thursday, but I watched it tonight because I didn't have anything else to do. Um, I don't even know where to begin with this fucking movie. I really don't. It's a crime drama set in the 50s in Detroit. And that is about where the plot of this movie makes the most sense, because from there it just becomes the most convoluted thing you've ever seen. Now, there's plenty of crime dramas that are all about betrayal and backstabbing and people scheming and different plans and trying to figure out how it all comes to fruition. But there's so much of that going on in this movie that it becomes too much. There's different plot points and shit getting thrown around, and they're just kind of thrown out casually, like backstories thrown out so casually, like you're supposed to already know what they're talking about, even though you don't. Or names start getting thrown around, and it's hard to keep track of who is who. Like, people are talking about characters we haven't even met, like we know who they are, and you're like, I don't know what the fuck is. Who are you talking about? Who is that again? Like, you keep throwing these names around like I'm supposed to know them. I don't remember. This movie is almost like a fucking exam. Like a high school test or something, where you're supposed to be able to remember names and just place them as people say them, and you're like, wait, who was that again? I should have been taking notes for this. I came ill prepared for this movie, because it started to lose me a bit, and then I wasn't paying attention as much, and then I really got lost, and it was just, there's so much. There's so many little things here and there, and it's just... And then the movie just ends in such a weird place. Let me start. Let's go back to the beginning. Okay, like I said, it takes place in 1950s Detroit. The main character of the movie is played by Don Cheadle. Now, as it gets established in the movie, he just got out of prison, and I guess he was involved. The reason he went to prison is because he was involved in something that went really bad. He tried to set up some big deal between, like, the local black gang and, like, the local Italian mob, and something really bad happened and it fucked everything up, and he had a falling out with both sides of the organization, and apparently he stole some, like, ledger from one of the, I think from the black gang, and everybody believes he still has it because it went missing, and it's just some weird thing about that. You might probably ask, like, why is it important? It becomes important later on. The next big character is played by Benicio del Toro, who you don't get as much backstory on him, but you do know that he's somehow connected to the local mobsters, and he has some problem with them, and they both get recruited by Fat Brendan Fraser. I say Fat Brendan Fraser because it's always still drawing to me to see how awful Brendan Fraser is aging. He is aging terribly. And I know I'm not really one to talk, because I'm also ugly and I'm also overweight and unattractive. But goddamn it, I was never a fucking heartthrob like this motherfucker was, because in the late 90s, early 2000s, he was really sold as a heartthrob, and it just went fucking downhill for him. And I partly feel bad for him, while I'm also partly looking at him like, dude, what the fuck? But that's neither here nor there. They get recruited by Barry Fraser to be part of a job with a third guy played by Kieran Culkin, where they have to go to the house of an accountant who works for one of the local car manufacturers. I forget which one. And they have to basically babysit his family, hold his family hostage, while one of them takes him to his work, where he has to go into where he works and charm his boss's secretary, who they know he's having an affair with, to get her to give him, the guy, the combination to his boss's safe, so he could get a file out of the safe and give it to the criminals. The husband, the accountant in question, is played by David Harbour from Stranger, who's probably best known for Stranger Things. So Kieran Culkin takes David Harbour to his work, while Benicio del Toro and Don Cheadle stay behind with the David Harbour's family. It's established pretty early on that Benicio del Toro and Don Cheadle don't like each other, because Benicio del Toro is kind of a bigot, and it's just, but whatever. That's not really important right here. David Harbour manages to break into his boss's safe. Unfortunately, there was nothing inside. The file they were looking for had already been taken by his boss. So he then gets just a different envelope with some paperwork, and he passes it off as what he was supposed to find. They then, him and Kieran Culkin then head back to his house. Kieran Culkin isn't wearing, like, all three of the criminals were wearing masks when they went in, but then Kieran Culkin, like, just isn't bothering wearing his mask anymore, and he's acting super manic about the situation when he gets back in, and it starts making the family, including David Harbour, very nervous, like, why are you acting like this all of a sudden? And Benicio del Toro and Don Cheadle both get confused too, and then it looks like Kieran Culkin is about to kill David Harbour's character, but then Don Cheadle kills Kieran Culkin. Then they get a call from Brendan Fraser's character, who says that he knows that the file wasn't what they were actually looking for, and he then orders Don Cheadle over the phone to kill the entire family, including Benicio del Toro's character, and he just says fuck it and doesn't do that, and he tells Brendan Fraser, like, you owe us, it's like, here's what you're going to do, you're going to tell everybody that Kieran Culkin's character broke in, and you got to jump on him, and you managed to kill him. He's like, but if I'm going to ask you for a favor at some point, and you're going to pay it without question. And so him and Benicio del Toro leave, and they eventually do. While they figure out, that the whole thing was a setup from the start, they decide to get David Harbour to help them get the actual file from his boss. So they take him and they have him go to his boss's house, where at first he tries to talk his boss into giving him the file. His boss won't, so he beats the shit out of his boss and then just takes the file. He gives it to Benicio del Toro and Don Cheadle, and they then try to have to figure out what to do with it, because now they're hunted mad. They each have a bounty on them, and they're not even sure who it was they were working for. Here's where things start getting really complicated. They start throwing around all these names and shit, and I don't know who the fuck they're talking about half the time. Like I said, they both have a huge bounty on them, and they have to start working together, but they don't really trust each other. And Don Cheadle basically rips the file, this important file that everybody wants, in half, and he gives half of it to Benicio del Toro. Well, he takes half and decide, all right, we'll each have a half, so we each kind of have equal control of the information. He then... Oh, shit. They decide that maybe they can trade the information to this local mobster they know, played by Ray Liotta. So Benicio del Toro goes to him. It turns out Benicio del Toro's character has been fucking Ray Liotta's character's wife. So there's obvious tension, and he knows about it. There's obvious tension there, and they don't like each other, and he's part of this whole setup thing. And they're each running their own games. Benicio del Toro is kind of like trying to sell out Don Cheadle. Don Cheadle's setting up his own thing because he doesn't trust anybody. And then they have a meeting with Ray Liotta's character at this restaurant to try to make a trade for the paperwork, but then Brendan Fraser shows up because he was apparently called by Ray Liotta. But Don Cheadle had the foresight to hire some guys for himself, and they kill Brendan Fraser's character. And they manage him, Benicio del Toro, kidnap Ray Liotta's character, and then they set up a deal with the guy that the mob was originally stealing the file for. Apparently the file was a study about the making and the use of the catalytic converter. Remember, this is in the 50s. So apparently a consortium of the 4 major automotive companies were intentionally keeping the existence of the catalytic converter secret in the United States, thus making sure it wouldn't be made or used. I don't know why. I don't even know if that's true and it really happened. At the end of the movie, they make it seem like that really happened, that the 4 major companies were charged with trade violations or something, where because they're not supposed to collude like that. I don't know. Oh yeah, there's also an involvement of a cop played by John Hamm. I don't know if he's a cop or a federal agent. He's something involved with like some sort of law enforcement involving the FBI. Not the FBI, organized crime. And he knows that David Harbour and his family is lying about what really happened. I think it's started from David Harbour's son. And then Benicio del Toro and Don Cheadle realize they can get a lot of money just going directly to the guy that hired the gangsters to steal the paperwork. But then they think, well, why not go higher? Because this guy's probably working for somebody else. Or they realize that somebody rich intentionally planned to try to delay the information becoming public, and so it's all really important. Oh, shit. What am I talking about? Oh, yeah, John Hamm's there, and he doesn't believe anything that's going on, and he's trying to look into it more. And then there's more backstabbings and deal making, and people are betraying people, and people are getting killed left and right. Like Ray Liotta's wife, he beats her when he confirms that she's been fucking Benicio del Toro, and then later on she shoots him and takes his money, and she kills him and takes his money, and then she runs off with Benicio del Toro, and eventually Don Cheadle and Benicio del Toro at first set up a deal for like 100. They keep just setting up more and more deals to get more money. Like initially, Don Cheadle's asking price for the initial part of the job was just $5,000. I think Benicio del Toro's was like $7,500 or something like that ultimately. And then as they keep getting more leverage, they keep managing to make bigger deals. Like they make a deal to sell to the guy that the paperwork was supposed to be stolen for originally for like $125,000, and then they realized that maybe they should just somebody made the guy David Harbour's boss who he beats up to get the file. Somebody made him take that information out of the office and try to hide it. And that's the Consolidated Auto Group, which is run by Matt Damon. So he ends up paying like $375,000 to Don Cheadle and Benicio del Toro for the paperwork, and they do, and there's like this whole scene of them talking about shit and about him saying about like, he knows how this is actually supposed to work and that they only have a place in it. It's basically just rich guy talking down to poor people shit. But it turns out they usually end up being right to some degree, because you can't have shit be too happy. Oh, Don Cheadle tries to betray Benicio del Toro by cashing in a bounty about him to the local black gang, which is run by the leader of whom is the actor Bill Duke. And but he says fuck it, he doesn't want Benicio del Toro, and he takes Don Cheadle instead and leaves the money behind. So Benicio del Toro just has almost $400,000, and he runs off with Ray Liotta's wife, who ends up killing him to just take the money. But then a cop pulls her over and takes the money from her, delivers it to John Hamm. John Hamm tries to take Don Cheadle from Bill Duke, but Bill Duke convinces him. He's like, listen, he's like, you can do that and you can get a promotion and earn a little bit more money, or you can not do that, still get a promotion because you'll solve major crimes, but you let me kill Don Cheadle's character first, and I'll let you take $50,000 because they took the $125,000 that was supposed to be delivered by the guy who wanted all this paperwork stolen in the first place. And in the end, you see that John Hamm returns the money back to Matt Damon's character. Did I say that? Yeah, I did. To Matt Damon's character. And it turns out there's even more than what he paid, because Ray Liotta's wife took like over $30,000 when she left, and she added it to that money, so he just ends up taking all of that too. And then for some reason, John Hamm hands over the $50,000 bribe he took from Bill Duke, as though that money was owed. I don't understand what that was about. I don't... Like, did the guy who was originally paying ask him to be there too? I don't know. It's so confusing. But like I said, in the end, Benicio del Toro ends up dead. Don Cheadle looks like he's going to be killed, but because they ended up... Bill Duke ends up taking all of that extra money that was supposed to be there, and he got his ledger back. He just kind of lets it go, and he just gives Don Cheadle his $5,000 that he was originally supposed to be paid for, and like just tells him to go. And so he leaves, and he just walks away with $5,000, which I guess is $5,000 more than he had at the beginning of the day. But it's a lot less than what he could have had. He could have walked away with well over $100,000. Oh, and not to confuse you, I think it's already too late for that, with the abysmal way I'm telling this and how convoluted the story already is. But David Harbour, I guess, initially set this whole thing into place. He was going to run off with his mistress, and he was the one who initially had the idea to steal that information about the catalytic converter, and he's the one he originally contacted the people who hired the mob to steal it, but then he chickened out, and he could have just had more. And his mistress realizes what an ineffective dude he is, and she eventually fucking turns on him. And I keep falling in and out of consciousness. I don't even know what the fuck I'm saying. Um, yeah, this is such a confusing fucking movie. There's so much backstabbing. There's so many people, so many names, so much to keep track of. It's hard to understand who everybody is and why they're doing what or why they hate certain people. It's so fast paced and there's so much information being thrown at you. It's very Steven Soderbergh. It's too Steven Soderbergh. It's just too much in this movie. It's nuts. Oh man. But yeah, they have this like little Chiron scrolling thing at the end that says like, you know, where they talk about like how the car companies colluded to keep the catalytic converter secret to meet uh, emanation something standards high, and it's a little, it's all a little insane. I don't know what we're talking. Oh man. But yeah, in the end, David Harbour ends up going back to his wife, and his mistress ends up staying with her husband, and they leave. And David Harbour's probably fired because he had to beat up his boss to get the information out of him initially, or eventually, depending on how you look at it. And but yeah, that's oh my god. Oh, I didn't want this to be this long. Um, yeah, this is a confusing movie. If you can make sense of all of it without losing anything, you have a better attention span than I do. Because I was just lost throughout so much of it. I had no idea what was going on or who anybody was. Or but yeah, if you're gonna watch it, make sure you're really paying attention because it's a difficult one. I only give this movie one thumb up. It has the makings of an interesting plot, and it definitely has a really good cast. But holy shit, it is just, it's just too much, you know. It's just too much. What was too much? Yeah, there's too much going on in this movie. Like I said, a good crime story can benefit from like backstabs and all sorts of things, but you just have a lot of people coming out of nowhere and it's all just fucking crazy. Yeah, one thumb up, confusing ass movie with a good cast and interesting writing to say the least. So, yeah, that's no sudden move. Yeah, that's the name of the movie. Oh, fuck. Okay. I think that rather wraps it up. It's time for bed for me, so have a good one, folks.